Unraveling a tragic tale of drugs, desperation, and missed opportunities, the story of Harold Easter sends shockwaves through the corridors of justice. In the aftermath, questions linger about the actions taken or not taken by the police and the dire consequences that followed. Could a different approach have saved Harold's life? The police pulled over a man named Harold Easter on January 3, 2020. The officers claimed to have seen him selling drugs, which led them to stop his vehicle. As soon as Harold came to a halt, the officers swiftly approached his car with their weapons drawn. To their astonishment, they caught Harold trying to conceal the evidence in a truly shocking manner. Once the officers set Harold down, he began searching him for any contraband. All he found in Harold's possession was a thick stack of cash. However, the officers' inspection of Harold's vehicle revealed something more significant. Harold had been busy crushing up a batch of crack cocaine in the car, though he hadn't finished the whole process. It seemed he was in the middle of it when the officer approached him. During the search, the officer discovered another small baggie near the driver's seat, containing around 3.5 grams of crack cocaine and approximately 1 gram of marijuana. Along with the cash found in Harold's pocket, these quantities weren't massive, but they were still illegal. Harold tried to defend himself, claiming he wasn't selling the drugs, just using them casually with his friend. "I ain't had nothing but to smoke a little rock, that's all," he said. Throughout the encounter, both Harold and the officers maintained respectful behavior and remained calm. Rather than surrendering it, he decided to take a dangerous risk. In a bold move, he quickly swallowed a rock of the drug right in front of the officer's eyes. The situation was perilous. Ingesting any amount of this drug could be harmful, but the quantity Harold had taken was life-threatening. Harold had swallowed a significant amount of crack cocaine, which posed a serious risk to his health. Yet it didn't seem to be aware of the danger or chose not to address it. Instead, they decided to place him inside their patrol vehicle while they continued their search. Harold admitted to having a small amount of marijuana on him, but he was desperate to keep them from discovering the crack cocaine he was also carrying. The officers should have acted immediately and called for medical assistance. Harold needed urgent help, but instead, they chose to focus on arresting him and taking him into custody. As a result, he suffered for hours without proper medical attention, which could have been critical for his well-being. They left him unattended in the vehicle for over 10 minutes before finally driving him back to the police station. On a drive to the station, Harold's behavior took an interesting turn. At the beginning of the journey, he was reserved and quiet, but as time passed, something seemed to change. Harold's words flowed more freely, and he became quite animated, almost like he was filled with excitement. As they reached the police station, the effects of whatever he had consumed became even more evident. His chatty nature was a stark contrast to how he was when he was first arrested. It was pretty clear to anyone that Harold was already quite high. He spoke incessantly, swaying and bouncing around without a care in the world. One would think that the officer escorting him would notice the signs of his intoxication. Harold's behavior was hard to miss. However, either the officer didn't catch on to the situation, or perhaps he simply dismissed it as typical behavior from some random street junkie. Surprisingly, the officer failed to alert the medical staff about Harold's condition. Even when Harold took off his hoodie and shirt, indicating a rise in body temperature, the officer left him alone in the interrogation room without any concern. In a dimly lit room, an interrogation was underway. The audio recording wasn't crystal clear, but the way Harold carried himself and spoke revealed a tale of its own. You could tell something was amiss. Harold was under the influence of a massive dose of cocaine. Although the drug's effects were just starting to take hold, it wouldn't be long before the dangerous and toxic consequences would emerge. The footage captured this troubling journey in 4 distinct stages. At this moment, Harold was showing early signs of cocaine overdose, marked by his growing agitation and elevated tone. Delirium had set in, making him excitable, hyperactive, and paranoid. His body temperature rose, and he began to scream and shout incoherently, all while deprived of any medical attention. Harold's frustration only intensified as he revealed his desperate need for water and access to a bathroom, both of which he had been denied since his arrest. His anger stemmed from this mistreatment, and he lashed out at the officers, demanding to know if they were going to let him die there. It was a chilling statement, and little did he know how significant it would soon become. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, an officer returned to the room.
Hey, Because me and my stepdad with my dad, we really like, what am I?
He asked if Harold needed some water, but it took him 4 long minutes to actually bring it in. His actions spoke volumes about the situation. As Harold gulped down the water, the officer questioned him about his yelling. Strangely, the moment Harold started talking, the officer quickly stepped back, refusing to turn his back to him. It was almost as if he felt scared or threatened by Harold's presence. This made it clear what was really going on. The officers seemed to believe that the dosage of whatever Harold had taken was safe, and they were simply waiting for its effects to wear off before interrogating him further. The arresting officer had seen the size of the rock Harold swallowed, and it should have been evident that it wasn't a safe amount. Unfortunately, they only realized their mistake when it was already too late. Now he was starting to feel strange. His body began to shake, and he knew deep down that something was not right. But there was a problem. He had taken so much of the substance that he was intoxicated and couldn't fully grasp what was happening. He desperately needed help, but his clouded mind couldn't comprehend it. As the effects of cocaine took hold, his blood pressure shot up, and he started to feel really hot. His thoughts became hazy, making it hard for him to understand the situation clearly. To make matters worse, he began twitching and experiencing convulsions, visible signs that something was seriously wrong. Harold had entered the first stage of cocaine intoxication, and it felt like poison running through his veins. Even if someone called for medics now, it would be tough for them to do much to stop the dangerous effects that were about to come. Poor Harold was in serious trouble, and he didn't even know how much danger he was in. This stage, the second stage of cocaine toxicity, made his muscles lose control, and his brain and vital organs were getting less oxygen. As time passed, Harold's condition worsened. His heart began to beat irregularly and skip beats, and his body started shutting down. He lay still for a couple of minutes on a table before collapsing to the ground. Experiencing even more aggressive seizures. For nearly 10 minutes, Harold endured this severe stage of cocaine toxicity, with no one around to check on him. Eventually, an officer noticed him, but by then, he was vomiting, hyperventilating, and convulsing uncontrollably. He was immediately rushed to the hospital, but, sadly, passed away 3 days later, leaving behind his wife and children. Following this tragic incident, an investigation was launched against the 5 officers involved in Harold's arrest. They later resigned from the force, but no legal action was taken against them. However, the CMPD, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, made important policy changes to avoid such situations in the future. Now officers are required to constantly monitor any suspect they have in custody, not just every 15 minutes. If they suspect that a suspect has swallowed an illegal substance, they must call a medic right away. These changes came too late for Harold, but they aim to prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future. In the aftermath, Harold's family filed a wrongful death suit, and they reached a settlement. Though heartbroken, they have found some peace and are ready to move forward. This sad incident served as a harsh lesson for the CMPD, showing them what not to do in such situations. Had they called for medical help earlier, Harold's life might have been saved. It's a reminder that proper procedures and quick actions can make all the difference in critical moments.